Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin. Okay, good morning and welcome to April 20th Victim Compensation Board meeting. Would you please call the roll?
Chairperson Maribel Batcher.
Here?
Board Member Richard Chavarro.
Here.
Board Member Michael Ramos.
Here.
Great, we're all here. Yay. All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Item 1 is the approval of the minutes of the March 16th board meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? You were absent, Mike, okay.
I'll move approval.
And I will second that. All in favor of approving the March 16th board meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The next item is a public comment item, and this is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. If you would like to comment on something, please come forward now. Okay, seeing none. Item 3 is the executive officer's statement. Julie, would you like to give us your statement? Morning.
I think we are on. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. April, as I know all of you are well aware, but for the record, is Crime Victims' Rights Week and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I'm very pleased that an opinion piece that I was able, with the help of our wonderful staff, to author on victim services was featured in the Fresno Bee during Crime Victims' Rights Week. And we also had program coverage in the Mercury News and in the Ventura County Star. So we're using every means possible to communicate throughout California the availability of this program. For these observances, we also conducted social media outreach and facilitated one of the ongoing payroll flyer inserts that reached over 200,000 state employees. And we also participated, and you were there at the annual Crime Victims United Rally at the Capitol.
Mm-hmm. It was a very well-attended,
and with the
good
governor
rally,
and
the governor,
our Attorney
and,
General
yep,
both
it was
speaking to
excellent.
the group.
Mm-hmm.
On April 26th, next week, I'll be speaking at Cal CASA's Denim Day rally at the Capitol. This event raises awareness of victims of sexual assault and will be attended by many state legislators and other dignitaries. So we're pleased that we have an opportunity to speak there.
What day of the week is that next
I
week?
believe it's Wednesday of next
Wednesday?
week. Yes,
Yeah.
in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and with respect to operational matters, our CARES 2 cutover was successfully launched about 2.5 weeks ago and is running smoothly. And I want to again thank the staff for their work on this project. We're not completely done. We're doing some kind of post cutover cleanup and fine tuning. That's a very focused effort over the course of the next 2 to 4 weeks. But that also was going very well, and I thank the staff for their willingness and ability to kind of put some other priorities aside for a bit while we really focus on getting this done completely and correctly.
Having technology, Department of Technology is one of the 9 departments in the Government Operations Agency. I'm going to check the box as this is one of the
This is a success.
Successful IT projects.
Yes, and I proudly emailed Amy Tong, our director of the Department of Technology, to inform her of the successful cutover, and she too was very pleased to check that box as well.
She had her confirmation hearings yesterday that went very well, and she explained our new process toward successful IT projects. So
it can be done.
I too thank the staff because it's been a path, and we've had some interruptions and hiccups, but we now have a successful project, nearly finished.
Yes,
so
and
thank you.
On behalf of all of us, thank you to all the board members for your continued support of our efforts to get this done. Now, next month, I'll share the statistical findings from our pre- and post-surveys. You recall that we did some advertising using billboards, et cetera. And these surveys will benchmark awareness of and effectiveness of these methods of our campaign. So we will see how effective the various methods were in various areas throughout the state. So we'll have that next month. And right now, you notice the screen is down and the logo is up. It's April, and I'd like to show you the first video of our historical series, which highlights the evolution of victim services.
Oh, great.
Why don't people want to get involved in the system? Well, if you were treated, as a piece of evidence, you were treated with disrespect, no dignity, no respect for you, you wouldn't want to be involved either. If criminal justice system was an airline in the 60s, nobody would fly it. It doesn't tell you where it's going, it doesn't tell you what time it's leaving. You're paying for the trip, but you don't even know where you're going, and you wouldn't fly it.
There really was not a great treatment of victims at that time. People simply didn't focus on them. I remember going into a court, and I had just tried a case where the lady had been raped, and we had a conviction, and the assailant had been found guilty, and we went in for the sentencing. And she and I were sitting in the front row, and the judge ordered us out. And he said, "Miss Haight, you and that woman get out of here." And I said, "Your Honor, who is more interested in the outcome of this case than the lady who was raped?" He said, "If you're not out of here in 2 or 3 minutes, I'm going to hold you in contempt, and I'm going to hold her in contempt."
1965 with state compensation was really the first time that any law came about dealing with victims, so to speak. New Zealand was the first country in the world to have a state compensation program, and Great Britain followed secondly, shortly after that, and then in California, the first state in the nation to start a state compensation program. In the early days of state compensation, it was really looked upon as a welfare program. It was to help the needy. If you were a victim of a crime and you lost everything, then you were needy. And so we'll give money to people who were needy.
When I first chaired the President's Task Force on Victims of Crime, and that was in the 80s, this was to look at victims throughout the United States and how were they being treated. And that was really interesting. We went to 6 cities, we listened to hundreds of victims, we spoke to thousands of victims of crime. And we learned some things that were really significant. The burden had shifted from the victim to stay out of harm's way rather than the criminal, the person not commit the crime. We had blamed the victim for their victimization.
Women were judged by the crime that occurred as whether or not they did something to cause it. Rape crisis centers saw the need to take care of the victim post-crime. We found that the trauma that occurred to victims after the crime lasted forever. Rape crisis workers, they decided that they could educate women in the field and support the people. Change is very difficult for people involved in the system for a long time, and it was always seen upon that the victim was not part of the system. You know that it's always the people of the state of California versus Joe Smith or whoever it may be. And it was a hard sell to the criminal justice system to let victims be a part of that.
And then when we discovered that 50% of violent crime was not even reported, and this is through the Department of Justice, U.S. Department of Justice has a victimization survey, then we realized, my God, we have to do something about this. We have to change the way victims are treated. If anything, just to hold the criminal accountable so they won't victimize somebody else. We had victim compensation programs throughout the United States. 37 states had them in 1980. Most of them were almost defunct. They had very little money. We found out that there were no separate waiting rooms for victims. They were sitting out there in the hallways waiting to testify with some pretty horrific people, like the people that assailed them, that there was very little restitution, was not even talked about. What, victim restitution? What's that mean? The fact that somebody else should be made to pay for keeping the victims, making the victims whole again, which is a whole concept in civil law, but it never was in criminal law. So it was really a balancing of the criminal justice system. I had an opportunity to really talk to the president about changing some of the laws that we had, and I wanted him to support a Victim of Crime Act that we were proposing along with Senator Hines, who is now dead, and Congressman Rodino. So I had to brief the president at a cabinet meeting. And I started to tell him about our victims of crime and what was happening and how poorly they were treated. One of our victims who was living in a farmhouse in Indiana, and her 4 sons were killed. She was shot. 4 boys she had to bury. Funeral expenses, hospital expenses. She received not 1 cent. The people that did this, they were caught, they were in prison, they were getting therapy, they had medical help, their families were on welfare, and nothing was given to the victim. That's how out of balance our system was. So when I got to tell this to the president, and then all of a sudden the head of OMB interrupted and he said, Mr. President, this is just an entitlement. She just wants an entitlement. And I'll never forget, the president turned to the whole cabinet. He said, Donna, I don't think people get themselves boshed over the head, have to go to the hospital and get help to get money. I thought, boom. So we got the support from the president for the victims of crime.
Well, the Victims of Crime Act was the thing that really helped victim services in California, especially all throughout the state. First of all, that California was the first program to really have a funding for victim services, and state compensation also received money from fines and penalties. We had the money there that was paid for fines and penalties. The Victims of Crime Act took the federal money and passed it on and did the same thing. We knew that we didn't have enough money in the state of California to continue to do the services we wanted to do. So the VOCA Act was really a great thing that happened for us in the victims movement, because it meant that we knew that the federal government, money would come from the federal government from all the fines and penalties that were placed on convicted federal offenders. It would come back to the states, and we could go along and serve victims in a better way.
So this is part 1 of a 3-part series. So I will be sharing the other parts with you, and our own board member Ramos is featured in one of those, and or maybe even 2 of them. And then I have a speaking part in the final one, which is the future of victim services, and
Where
some
do we
comments
plan
about
to
that.
show these?
Well, these are on our website.
I watched
Of
it on the
course,
website,
of
yeah.
course. And they are available for other events or
Our district attorney association can utilize it.
I was thinking about utilizing it for the California District Attorneys Association as well as the National District Attorneys
Right.
Association, because this reminded me in January, as president of the National DAs Association, we were on the Hill, and part of the purposes was lobbying to protect VOCA funds and keep
Good.
that pressure on. And a lot of the new members of Congress don't know this history.
Right.
So I think this is a great opportunity for us to really share with the rest of not only the state but the country.
Yeah.
So great work.
You might
you.
take Lois Haight. I know her as Lois Harrington, but you
Yeah.
might take Judge Haight with you.
Yeah,
She's a powerful
she
voice.
sure sounds like it.
Yeah,
Good
she's
work.
Powerful.
Thank you so much.
Great.
And I will just close with just a mention to assure you that we are working very closely with both Fresno County and San Bernardino County as they are dealing with the most recent tragic events that have occurred in both of those counties. And we'll continue to provide all the help and support we can through our victim witness folks in the field.
Great.
And I want to thank you for that personally from our county. We think we'd get through it, and then we have an event like that last week. One of the things we learned in crisis management is my chief of victim services, Florida Alicorn, she was off that day. She came into work. She had a team of 12 advocates. They went out to the school sites with the parents. They went to the hospital with the parents that lost the little boy, and the services provided. And of course, your staff called and offered whatever they could do. So the team approach that we have, we learned from December 2nd, and I want to thank you again. You continue to help us with those families. We're meeting again with the families of December 2nd, which, as you know, like 9/11, it takes years to get them through the entire process. But again, thank you for your help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's the end of my report.
Any other questions or comments of Julie, okay, good. We'll move on to item number 4, which is the contract report. Julie, would you
Thank
like
you.
to give us that as
Yes,
well?
I have 2 items for you on this one. The first is a contract for the Highlands Consulting Group in the amount of $278,300. I call your attention to the fact that this is funded in great part by our OVC Technology Initiative grant and is part of our commitment to OVC to conduct the effort to lead us to acquisition of an online access system for the comp programs. Is something that some of our smaller sister states have done. California being the size and the leader that it is, this is a much grander undertaking. So we're happy to have their financial support as we work through, as you were talking earlier, about the processes by which IT projects are approved and monitored and managed in the state of California. This is a very, very important step for us to be able to bring online access to California. So I ask for your approval on that, as well as contract for Technology Integration Group in the amount of $120,435, which is focused on replacing monitors that are at the end of their life. So this is part of our ongoing maintenance of our operations of our care system.
In terms of how many people, how many units are being replaced, is that like a percentage of 50% or on the
I'm going
replacement?
to look to whoever is here from admin or program that can give
'Cause
that
it
detail. But
seems like a good deal, a good number, so.
it is a good number because we want to be sure that all the staff, and in fact the staff in our JP offices as well, have the dual monitors that we have found are the really the most effective way to conduct our work, especially the way CARES 2 has been built. So it's a much more efficient way of doing the work when you can have 2 screens, so you don't have to take the time to go out and come
And
back
having to
in,
toggle back
et
and
cetera.
forth, right,
Exactly, exactly. So this is
This is and county users, so some of this purchase is to the county?
yes. So that all processors, either at headquarters or in the JPs, will have the equipment that they need.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
No.
Rick? Anything? Okay, well, do I have a motion on the contract report?
I'll move approval.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract report as just delivered by the executive officer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, members.
And now we're moving on to the legislative report. Mindy, I see that you're coming to the table to give us that report. Good morning.
Morning.
I feel like I'm not getting that on. Okay.
There you are.
As we all know, it's the legislative season. It's a little bit hectic and busy and exciting, so I'll just highlight a few of our hot bills, so to speak. The first one we continue to be engaged with is Assembly Bill 1061 and by Assemblyman Gloria. And this is the second modernization bill that we have a role in to enhance benefits and increase limits. And we've had a letter of support from CDAA, and we are hearing that a few more, hopefully a lot more, will be rolling in. And it passed on consent in the Assembly Public Safety Committee last month, and now it's referred to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. So we stay actively engaged.
Make sure we get those letters in before it hits
Yeah.
appropriations.
Yes, good point. And we're actively engaged, answering questions, helping to move it along, so to speak.
Good.
The next one I'll highlight is AB 502. It's the Elder and Adult Dependent Financial Abuse Pilot Program. I mentioned it last month. This will be a pilot program in San Diego County if it passes, and Victims Comp will provide compensation to victims of elder or dependent adult financial abuse if the crime occurred in San Diego County. And we will make possible financial counseling, mental health counseling, and cover the cost of transportation to appointments. As many of us know, this is at least the third year this bill has run, so it'll be interesting if it has any more traction this year. But we get lots of questions on it, and again, are addressing all those
I don't recall that the other bills were a pilot program, though, were they? They
Yeah.
were also?
The,
Okay.
the first year, no. Then last year they went
I'm
to
remembering
pilot.
the
Yeah.
first year bill, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And
thanks.
it goes to Assembly of Probes next week on the 26th, on Denim Day. The next one I will continue to highlight until we're through this season is Assembly Bill 900. It's the human trafficking income loss one. And our update since last month is that we had a meeting with Californians for Safety and Justice, the sponsor of that bill, providing a lot of technical assistance. And we have a follow-up meeting next week because they sent us an amended version. And we are hoping to have a conversation about some of the concerns that others have expressed about this bill and see what they're willing to do about that. Okay?
Get the amended version.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just mixed that up. 900, actually, it's 1384 we're meeting with Safety and Justice, so we don't have an amended version on 900. Thank you.
Did, since
You
we
gave
just
me that
talked
look, and
about
I
this.
thought I just mixed
Okay.
those two up. No, AB 900, no new dialogue. We continue to wait to see
Okay.
if there will be dramatic changes.
Okay.
Thank you on that one. AB 1384, that's when we've met with Safety and Justice. It's trauma recovery centers. This is the one where San Francisco Trauma Recovery Center would be the model, and there is continued dialogue as we provide technical assistance to that sponsor, Safety and Justice. And we'll see what happens on that one next week. And it too is being referred to Assembly of Probes. I did not mention AB 1639 last month, so I'll highlight it this month. It's a gang database bill, and it would prohibit us from denying an application solely because the victim or derivative victim is a person who's listed in the Cal gang system. And I just really want to point out that we are informing everyone who is asking that we do not have access to that gang database, and we never deny a claim because a victim is solely a gang member. That is not a reason to deny a claim. So those conversations continue. We'll just have to see where that one goes.
Okay.
And then the last one I want to highlight is Senate Bill 321. It's the erroneous conviction claim. It's to require the governor to appoint a special master, subject to confirmation by the Senate, to oversee erroneous conviction claims that are submitted to the board and require a hearing. And this is an interesting bill, to say the least. There's a lot of dialogue on it, and it's on the suspense file in the Senate Appropriations Committee. So
okay.
this one, too, we're keeping an eye on. And those really are the highlights this month. Any questions?
Okay. Does
No,
anybody
thank
have
you.
any questions? Thanks, Mindy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very helpful. Okay, we are now moving on to item number 6, which is the Penal Code Section 4900 of Raymond Lee Jennings, that will be presented by Chief Counsel Lorinda Delani. And would you please brief us on this item? Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. We also have a representative from the Attorney General's office. If you'd like to introduce yourself, name and title.
Barton Bowers, Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Lorinda?
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members Ramos and member Chavarro. Raymond Lee Jennings seeks compensation for his wrongful conviction and incarceration pursuant to Penal Code Section 4900. In 2009, after juries deadlocked in 2 separate trials, a third jury convicted Mr. Jennings of first-degree murder. The trial court sentenced Mr. Jennings to an aggregate term of 40 years to life in state prison. In 2015, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Conviction Review Unit, at the request of Mr. Jennings' counsel, investigated the conviction. The District Attorney's Office uncovered evidence that pointed unerringly to Mr. Jennings' innocence. In 2016, with the express agreement from the District Attorney's Office, the trial court granted Mr. Jennings' petition for habeas relief. The next week, the trial court granted Mr. Jennings' motion for a finding of factual innocence. Accordingly, pursuant to Penal Code Section 1485.55, the board is mandated to recommend to the legislature that an appropriation be made in the amount of $538,440 for the 3,846 days that Mr. Jennings spent in prison. Neither Mr. Jennings nor his counsel, Jeffrey Ehrlich, are here today. The Attorney General's office is represented by Deputy Attorney General Barton Bowers.
Thank you, Lorinda. Any questions of Lorinda at this time?
No, I have no questions.
Mr. Bowers?
Proposed decision. The analysis of Ms. Simpson is correct and it should be adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers. I must say that 4,900 cases are difficult on so many levels, always for me, and I think the members share that. But one has to just say, how can our system get it so wrong when you read a case like this one? You know, how can our system of justice deliver something so unjust? So I'm terribly sorry that Mr. Jennings, a veteran, has had this visited upon his life, and I'm pleased that we are where we are today on this case.
Yeah, I agree with you. These are very difficult, and I want to thank District Attorney Jackie Lacey, my colleague, for putting together the conviction review unit as a model that we took as well in San Bernardino County. It's open to anybody that thinks if there's somebody innocent, there's facts out there, submitted to our unit, and we will reopen the file. And I think Jackie did a very ethical determination in this matter, and I want to thank LADA's office as well. But I support and would move the recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept staff recommendation on Penal Code Section 4900 claim of Mr. Raymond Lee Jennings. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Barton, and thank you, Lorinda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We will now move to the Victims' Compensation Program portion of our agenda. The next item is the proposal to approve the Trauma Recovery Center grant awards that will be presented by Robin. Hello, there you are.
Morning.
Our Victims Resource Branch Manager.
Yes, good morning. I'm Robin Femmelby, the manager of the Resource Branch at Victim Compensation Board. Today I'm presenting the board item requesting approval for the proposal to fund our 4 Trauma Recovery Center grants for fiscal year 17-18. Based on the applicant's response to the Notice of Funds Available posted January 17, 2017, and careful evaluation by staff, today 4 trauma recovery centers are being recommended for funding. The funding recommendation is for a combined award of $3,555,184. The first Trauma Recovery Center is the California State University Northridge in Los Angeles County, Chadwick Center for Children and Families, San Diego Trauma Recovery Center in San Diego, Solano Courage Center in Solano County, and Special Services for Groups in Los Angeles County. This would be a continuation of funding for Special Services for Group and establish 3 new TRCs. If these awards are approved today, approximately $2.3 million remains available for funding for additional TRCs. A notice of funds available was reposted on April 10th, 2017, and applications are due on April 24th. Staff will evaluate all submitted applications. Today, representatives from Solano Courage Center are present. Lisa Lewis Javar, Haley Armstrong, and Michelle Schoen Rodriguez, and Jennifer Young from Special Services from Groups is also present. Representatives from the remaining trauma recovery centers are viewing via live streaming today.
Good.
Great.
Great, that's
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your hard work and that you do every day, and for applying for these very important funds. Yeah, so I don't have any other
I'll
questions.
move approval
And-
of the grants.
Yeah, I would second. I as well want to thank you for the great service you do for our victims in the state of California, and this is a really good thing. Thank
And-
you.
And I'm also pleased that that we have gone back out to solicit additional, because I think we need some geographic balance and some other areas of the state that maybe have not had these types of funds available. So I thank the staff and Julie for seeking more opportunity for us to help.
Yes, thank
The
you.
trauma centers that I have visited have been, for me, just practically life-altering. The kinds of work that you do and the people you reach and the level of care that you give and the hope that you give is really quite remarkable. So I appreciate it very much. And Robin, thank you.
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Did you want
Okay.
to?
I'm sorry?
Make a motion and.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Then we were having discussion. Is there any other further discussion on the motion? I mean, okay, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Yeah.
aye.
Yeah.
All three of us.
Welcome.
Thanks, Robin. All right, and thank you all who made the trip here to be here for this presentation. The board will now convene into closed session pursuant to the Government Code Section 11126C3 to discuss numbers 1 through 49B of the Victim Compensation Program.